Hey guys, it's your host, MD Lovelace, coming to you live from Graceland. You're watching the Sconni Sports Show. All right, we are back with a special guest tonight. He is a former Broncos and then, of course, your beloved Green Bay Packers quarterback, Don Horn.
Hey guys, how are we doing?
Good. You're looking good, man. I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Hope that looks that good.
Pushing 76 now. Man, wish I'd taken better care of myself when I was younger. So,
Yeah,
you gotta have fun.
You guys played in the non-soft era, Don, so I bet you're extra paying for it, right?
oh gosh, yeah. I see the stuff today where they call a penalty for pile driving a guy into the ground and stuff.
Yeah.
That was normal. That happened all the time to Bart and myself. I mean,
Blue.
Alex Harris would do it. Butkus would do it. I mean, these guys would do it all the time, every chance they get.
You guys had the luxury of the blue tents. I mean, you guys had a crap in a bucket if you had to go, huh? You're hunting special, right?
I haven't thought about that. Yeah. It's funny because years ago I was on the sidelines at a college game. San Diego State was playing out here in Colorado. They were playing Air Force Academy, and the head coach jogged off the field. I said, "Where'd the head coach go? He's not quitting, is he?" No, he's running to he had to go into the bathroom. He had to go take a leak in the bathroom. Like halfway through the second quarter. I mean, what the heck?
Oh, that's awesome.
Never did it as a coach, Don, but I can definitely remember a few times I'm like, "Coach, hold my chapstick. I got to run to the crapper back. I'm ready." And the one play I missed during one of my careers, I was late after kickoff. I had the bubble guts like you wouldn't believe. And the kid that was my backup had a touchdown scored on the first two plays. My coach looked at me and said, "I'll get you a bucket. You're never leaving again."
You're never going to get the bucket. or a big bottle.
Yeah.
Well, now don't they have these blue tents that they can just go in there and take a leak and be done with it?
Yeah.
What an interesting start to the episode. I gotta love it. We're talking crapping and pissing on sideline. I love it.
It goes down and dirty quick, right?
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Through Don's website, it talks about man of integrity and all this other stuff, and we get him starting with pissing and crapping right away. I love it. He definitely will.
Hey, somehow.
Well, let's hope you never get another fun interview like this again. We want you to keep coming back, Don. You're welcome anytime. So, Don, walk us through back of the days. Of course, everybody's big question. You played for the legendary Vince Lombardi. What was your relationship with Vince like prior to Bart and obviously Zeke getting hurt?
What was my relationship with Vince when Bart and both Zeke were there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Vince, very demanding. You'd always, no matter what you did in practice, he would demand more. You'd think you give him your best. You think you're giving 100%. And from his point of perspective, his view, it's only like 90 or 95. He'd find a way to get another 5 or 10% out of you. And I remember, he was very demanding, at all times. And, I learned a lot from both Bart and Zeke. Wish I'd have listened a little closer when I was younger. When you're young and dumb, you do foolish things or whatever.
We understand that.
Yeah, Vince had a knack of, which is contrary to every motivational speaker, especially back in those days, where Vince would take you in private, take it out by yourself, where nobody could hear you, and then he would sit there and say how great you could be. I remember one time he pulled me aside and said, "Donald," he says, "you got all the potential to be one of the greatest, et cetera, that ever played the game. But you have to listen to me. You have to do what I say, and you got all the talent and stuff, and we can mold you. You could be great, et cetera, et cetera." And then 10 minutes later during practice, what the hell was going on? And he'd say, he'd kind of allude to the fact, he'd say something like, Donald, so help me, if I see that San Diego Surfer Shuffle one more time, we'll be on the next bus back to the beach, and I don't, I don't care if I get nothing for it. And I go, wait a minute, you just told me how, but he would, he treated everybody that way. He would tear you down in public in front of your peers, and then in private build you up. And he treated pretty much everybody that way. And if he wasn't yelling at you, that's when you had to worry. And he yelled at me a lot, early on in my career. I was just there 2 years with him. 1 year was head coach. The next year he was the GM. That was the year I spent most of the year in the Army. But kind of a special relationship. In fact, years later, when he went down to Washington, it's kind of a long story. He wanted to trade for me from Green Bay. He wanted me to come down and back up Sonny for a while, and then take over after Sonny retired with the Redskins. And I kind of was contemplating that, not seriously. And then one thing led to another, and Phil Bankson and I didn't get along. Some stupid stuff, and it ended up, Vince passes away and things change, and I never wanted to leave Green Bay when I left. And Dan Devine came in and heard that I wasn't happy, which was not the case, and then he immediately traded me to Denver, and my whole career changed out here. I got hurt, re-injured my shoulder, my knee, etc., and I came out here and got pretty well banged up, and then the rest is history. I always tell people this. I played about 9 years in the league total in the professional ball, and about 2/3 of the time I backed up future Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Bart Starr, ended up my career backing up Dan Fouts with the San Diego Chargers. So I'll tell people it all started at San Diego State and ended with the San Diego Chargers. I went back to the beach.
Well, that answers our question. We had one of our listeners had commented about, were you happy that Dan Devine traded you? So obviously, no was the answer on that one.
Oh, that's the son of a gun, I tell you. It's funny because I was I hurt my knee, and I was kind of rehabbing, and when he was named head coach of the Packers, the draft was a little bit earlier back then. I believe it was in March. It was earlier time of year. Might have been in sooner than that, but he called me in either January or February. I was living in San Diego in the off season at the time. He called me up, and he said, and he introduced himself on the phone. He says, "Don, I heard you're unhappy." And I said, "No, sir. I don't want to leave Green Bay. I'm not, I'm not unhappy at all. And there's certainly things that, there's no existing things that can't be resolved." He says, "I'm glad to hear that." He says, "I got this draft to take care of in a couple of weeks. And he says, once I get over this draft, I'm going to fly you back here, and we're going to get you re-signed and get ready for the season." I said, "That's great, Coach. I like that straightforward talk. I appreciate that, and I look forward to it." And then the morning of the draft, it was about 6:30 in the morning, West Coast time. The phone rings. I pick it up, and I forget who it was. Carol, somebody. She says, "This Don." Yeah, she says, "This is Carol or so and so, whoever." And she says, "Please hold for Coach Devine." And okay, and so Coach Devine, Dan came on the phone and says, "I'll never forget this." He said, "Don, this is Coach Devine. I'm just calling you to inform you I just traded you to the Denver Broncos. Good luck." And he hung up. I went, "You son of," that's how it was.
Oh man.
So in a way, it was almost hurting with being Kurt, huh?
But he was getting rid of it. I guess he got rid of a lot of the old, Lombardi type of holdovers, so to speak.
Would you do like a pride thing, or do you think that had more to do with him trying to create his own destiny? What do you think that kind of?
I think it's a lot of these coaches do that. They kind of create their own destiny. If they create it with their own people, so to speak, without some carryovers of some of the, especially a guy like the greatest. Coach Lombardi. I think that had a lot to do with it. And then then talking to players after that I know fairly well that played for him, the stories they tell about Dan and what a terrible coach he was at that level.
Feel free to name drop. We'll get him on the show. That'd be great.
Anyway, so but that's and then I came out here and started and got hurt, tore my knee and shoulder up, and after that I was kind of nothing more than a decent backup for a few years, and that was it. But anyway, I hated to leave Green Bay. I didn't want to leave at the time.
What is it that you like most about Green Bay?
It's that group of teammates, players. They don't come any better than that. That great team in the '60s. The Willie Davises. The Herb Adderleys, the Willie Woods, Bart Starr, Zeke. Forrest, Skoronsky, Jerry Kramer, the Fuzz. Max. Just the character and a great bunch of guys off the field, very successful in many ways. The character makeup, just the camaraderie, and I miss that. You don't see that today. I don't think on these teams. It's a different game today. It's a different game today. So.
Yeah. Do you think that helped build towards the Packers getting that championship those years? Like camaraderie?
I think, the chemistry and stuff, and Coach Lombardi always encouraged us to, he wanted us to socialize off the field.
Yeah.
Do things together with your family and friends and girlfriends and stuff. And he encouraged that. Today, these guys are going off in all different directions and doing their own stuff, and they don't have, God, family, and the Green Bay Packers, and he wanted the family came, very much an integral part of that. And sometimes we'd joke, always say God, family, and the Green Bay Packers, except for certain Sundays when we're playing the Bears, and it wasn't necessarily that order. But that just a great bunch of guys. There won't be another Bart Starr. Just a total gentleman.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Bart was, just can't say enough about him. On the field and off the field. When I was first came to Green Bay, I was there for a few days, and I remember the first time I met Vince. I flew in there and I was staying at the Downtowner. And I had a meeting with Vince, I think, at 9:30 in the morning. And I was leaving the room about 5 after 9. 15-minute drive over there or something like that. Or whatever. And so the phone rang about 5 or 6 minutes after 9 o'clock, and I was just walking out. And I think it was Pat Pepper, and he says, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm just leaving right now." And he says, "You're late." I said, "I'm a little late." I said, "I'll be here in 15 minutes. He says, "You're late." He said, "I'll explain when you get here."
Yep.
I got there at 9:25, thinking I was 5 minutes early. I was 10 minutes late. That's the first time I discovered what Lombardi time was, anyway. But
still have the stadium too.
Yeah,
clock is still Vince Lombardi time. I love that.
Yeah, that's right. It's still there on. Yes, it's 15 minutes fast, isn't it? Yep.
Yep.
So I remember I was there 2 or 3 days, and then I get a call, and Bart calls me up, welcomes me to Green Bay and stuff, and wants to come over and meet me, and then he invited me to be his guest. He went to some banquet. He was the keynote speaker, and he took me as his guest and introduced me to a lot of the local people there, and this was the draft choice, and et cetera, et cetera. And, he had nothing nice complimentary things to say about me, and I'm going, what a great guy. Just first time I met him. So,
yeah.
But, he was, all those guys. Henry Jordan. Just, Leroy Caffey. You start to think about those great guys. And just, a great bunch of individuals,
Yeah, I don't think we'll see the Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love reunion and hang out like you and Bart did. So definitely is a one of a kind story.
What's the take on Love? Because I saw him play a couple times last year. I was pretty impressed with him.
We haven't seen him yet.
He's
on the side. What's he have? What does he have? Is he hurt or is he COVID?
They're just they're kind of just give him a kind of a I don't know, I guess red shirt year. I'm guessing And the guy that's actually backing up Rogers, Boyle, has been pretty impressive also. So I think they're just kind of giving him a redshirt year and going from there.
And I tell you, it's just the game's changed. All that money in red shirt and not even suit up.
Yeah.
Well, our first 2 draft picks, if you think about it, Don, I don't know how much you're watching the Packer games this year, but your draft pick, Jordan Love's not playing. You have Dylan up there as the big time running back. I don't know if you've seen this monster, but he's huge. And then Jeff and I were chatting during the game last night, and you're inside the 5-yard line. Why are you not using your big punisher?
There's no way a guy can tackle that guy within a yard. There's no way. Oh man.
Yeah, there's something done right there. Well, I'll tell you that Jones. I met Jones last year.
Aaron, yeah, super nice.
Back to the alumni thing. He was at some function. We played golf down there, and was it Black Hawk or whatever down there in Sheboygan. Black.
Bowler.
Yep.
And he was down there, and really a nice guy. And I'm impressed with him. I mean, he runs hard. You're a little guy. He runs hard. He finds the holes, especially at that 5-yard line. He'll find some way to get through there. I don't know if he throws a bunch of Vaseline on there, a WD-40. He's there.
Nice.
Speaking of that, that ice bowl. I mean, we didn't have the equipment we had that they have now, and guys would wear long underwear, 2 or 3 pairs of long underwear, and then they put a sock on, and then they put a plastic bag over their foot, and then put another sock on and tape it, and then any exposed parts. They had ski masks on, but any exposed part of the head and the neck and the ears, nose, and whatever, guys had Vaseline. They had all kinds of Vaseline, offensive linemen and stuff, just to keep the cold out as much as possible and keep the heat in. I couldn't believe it.
So we hear about speaking of the Ice Bowl, we hear all about the game itself. Walk me through after the game. What kind of precautions were taken? What kind of guys, were guys sitting there suffering from frostbite?
Actually, we ended up, I believe, having more guys frostbite than they did. All we kept hearing is about, the Cowboys, had all these guys frostbite. And a few days later, I mean, Forrest Gregg got seriously frostbite. And, but we had more guys we thought that were frostbitten. Of course, we won, so we didn't complain about it. And I asked about, back in the old days, those locker rooms were kind of together, and that one little building up north on the north side of the stadium. You guys don't remember it, you guys are puppies.
Oh.
So, we had the old building and stuff, and then, the visitors' locker room was we had a common wall, and then the showers and stuff and whatever. And we were celebrating pretty much after that game, and by the time some of us ended up taking showers, all the hot water was gone.
Oh.
And I asked Dan Reeves about it years later. I said, what the hell did you guys, you count? The Cowboys left all the hot water run. They heard us celebrating over there, and so they left all the hot water run. And but there's quite a few guys that ended up taking cold showers.
Oh man!
And I said, whose idea was that? And of course, he said it was Danny Don's, which I don't believe. But anyway, yeah. But I remember coming in after that game, and Lombardi. I never, we had that small little locker room. I don't know if you guys remember how small it was up there, that little building. And
yeah, it was pretty bad.
We came in that locker room, and I think Frank Gifford was there, and Tom Brookshire, I think, CBS, I think, and they had a little podium set up in the middle of the locker room, lights up and stuff. And they had all these lights and camera and stuff, and we were coming in the locker room, and the guys were going, all of a sudden, Lombardi, I'm in there right behind Vince, and he came in there, and he saw they were all set up, ready to do interviews, and he started yelling, "What the heck going?" And he started, what? Get out! Break! Okay, you guys don't come in this locker room until you're invited. You don't come in here until you're invited. This was sacred ground. You don't come in until you're invited. And he turned to Frank Gifford. Doggone it, Frank! If anybody knows better, you do. You should know better than this. You don't come in here until you're invited.
Wow.
He made them break everything down, go outside, we had our 5 or 10 minutes, and then opened it up. They had to come down and reset up and all that stuff. But doggone it, Frank, if anybody knows better, you do. You should know that. So anyway,
Oh.
I haven't thought of that in a while either. So
Nice.
Love to hear about all this stuff. Yeah, it's awesome to hear. We always like having on this show, especially. We always invite the guys to tell stories that maybe they haven't told before and just have more fun with it. Walk us down memory lane, walk us through some of the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever you guys are open to, Don. So feel free to open up on any of your.
well, I mean,
We
I've
may
said
not.
some of them before. I always tell people this. My rookie year, I ended up playing with Fuzzy Thurston. It was his last year, and Max McGee.
Mm.
And I always tell people this story. I said the first game I ever played in, I think, the first game I think that I played in and actually threw a pass. I threw it to Max, a little turn in over the middle, about 15 yards over the middle. Little turn in over the middle and right through his hands. Boom! Right through his hands. So we're watching the game because we won the game. That's why I'm playing. We're watching the game the following week, and we're going through the game film, and Vince is kind of giving him a bad time. He keeps running that film back and forth, and right through his hands, and he kept, Vince would say, "Max, look at that. I told you before the season, you're too old. You should have quit this year. You're too old to play this game. That young quarterback, Horn, put that ball right there, and you couldn't catch it. You should have quit."
Wow.
And Max said something. He came back he said, "Coach," he says, "frankly, it caught me off guard." He says, "What do you mean?" He says, "I'm not accustomed to a ball being thrown that well."
Ouch.
You got Bart in there to see, but the whole team kind of laughed. He said, "Hey, he said, that's probably the best ball I've seen thrown around here in 4.5 years. I'm just not accustomed to it."
Jeez. What a compliment.
Yeah. And then, I think a few plays later, we're in a dark room, we're watching the game film, and I threw a pass and it was completed. And I never forget, you remember things like this. And it was our tour tight end, a young kid named Alan Brown. He was the backup tight end from Fleming. And so he ran that back and forth. And I'm going, to myself, "Oh my God, what did I do?" Because anytime Vince starts running that film back and forth, get ready because he's going to chew you out.
Wow.
He goes, and finally he said, "Donald." Most of the time he called me Donald. And I said, "Yes, sir." And he says, "Correct me, son." He says, "I believe this is the first pass you've ever completed." And I said, "Yes, sir." And he says, "Turn on the lights." And I flipped on the lights. Vince gets up in the middle of the room with that big old projector, that little 16 millimeter projector with no sound, and stands up, turns around. He says, "Let me be the first one to congratulate you on your first pass. And I hope it's the first one of, hundreds or thousands that you're going to have in your career." He walked back and shook my hand.
Wow.
And then 3 plays later, "What the heck? Go, what did you do?" That's the way he was. So stuff like that. I remember him introducing me one time, a young kid. We're playing the Bears down in Wrigley Field, and pregame warm-ups, and we're throwing out one way, and the Bears are throwing out the other way, and then Alice and Vince are like 2 peacocks walking around the 50-yard line. They're walking around, just showing. So I threw a pass, was going back, and then Bart, and finally I went back to take my turn again, and Donald, he kind of waved me over, and I jogged over to him. He was about maybe 8 or 10 yards away, and he introduced me to George Hallis.
Wow.
To be introduced to a legend by a legend on about the 50-yard line to Wrigley Field. I mean, just stuff like that. You remember? I think I was a rookie. And
that was the game I think you threw for 410, wasn't it? I think it was one of your first breakout games.
That was, I don't know if that might have been the year. I don't remember. That one year where we beat the Bears when I was in the Army.
Okay.
And that was in '68.
Yeah, because one of the you were at Wrigley, it was 3 touchdowns, I think, 410 yards, if I remember.
That was a Lambeau. That was I remember. Yeah. And Lynn Dickey and I, he always give me crap on that stuff. Lynn and I are good friends. And, for 4 or 5 or 6 years, throwing 400 yards back in the 60s
I say that's impressive.
Like maybe throwing five or 550 today. I mean, it was like a different game. And for like 4 or 5 years, the trivia question was for a lot of people: name the last two quarterbacks to throw for over 400 yards in the NFL. Until like the mid '70s, and it was Don Horn and Joe Namath.
Wow, good company.
But I threw it, and they took me out in the fourth quarter.
Gee.
And I remember it was Willie Davis Day. It was Willie Davis's last day, and when they took me out, it was you had one of those games where everything's clicking on all cylinders, whatever. Everything just went right, and then of course there's Sunday afternoons when you can't get the first base, but I remember Willie came up to me and he said, "Horn, you stole my thunder." So anyway, but yeah, Lynn, and for the longest time, and I didn't realize that I had the longest pass ever thrown in Lambeau Field by any quarterback.
Really? Okay.
And that was that 89-yard pass that I threw in 1970. In fact, it was 50 years ago yesterday. It was somebody put it on Facebook, and it was only 89 yards. And
only.
you think somebody would throw one? And I remember when I met Brett for the first time about 12 years ago. In fact, it was the morning of the Monday night game when they played in out here in Denver, and when Brett threw the 89, the first play of the overtime Monday night game, and but I met him that morning. I went to the hotel down here in Denver, and I was kind of upstairs, kind of sneaking around where I wasn't supposed to be, and a couple of security guys came up to me and, "Who are you?" and all that stuff. And about that time, a couple of the front office people came by, and they recognized me, so they started talking, and then they said, "How you doing?" Whatever, and they said, "I came out here to wish you guys good luck." And by the way, I wanted to say, wish Brett. About that time, Brett was coming out of the meeting. I mean, he was coming out of breakfast. He had to go to a meeting. So they said, "Hey, Brett, come over here." And he said, "This is Don Horn. I played back there at Bart Starr. Brett was a nice guy." And he said, "By the way, he's got the longest pass ever thrown in Lambeau by, the first thing Brett says, "Well, how far was it?" 89 yards.
Yeah.
199. Well, he did, but it was, it was in Soldier. It wasn't, I mean, and they said, "These are Lambeau." So we're talking and stuff. And he says, "Horn, I've been trying for 15, 16 years to break your record. And I want to, whatever." And so, we talked a little bit. And I'm saying, "Yeah," I said, "Brett, you have more gray hair than I do." I mean,
nice.
And, they're telling me then that was the year that, they went to the championship game and they lost to the Giants. But I remember the front office people were telling me, Brett, had a fairly young team, and he got those young team and those players to play at a higher level consistently. And they said the only reason they're getting the production they are is because of Brett. He's just, a great leader, and he's pushing these guys to get more out of them and stuff, like a good coach does or whatever. So anyway, so we're talking, and then finally he had to go to the meeting. He turns to me and he says, "I promise your record's safe. I won't break it." I said, "Well, if anybody does, I want you today," and all that stuff. So and then he goes to a meeting. And then in that game against the Giants, he threw a 25-yarder driver, and he took a 90 yards.
Oh, yeah.
He beat it by one friggin' yard. And so I was going to call Brett and give him some static, but that's when all the stuff started about, he and Thompson and, well, I'm going to retire, not retire, and all that stuff and whatever. So I never did. But Lynn Dickey, I set those records, and, I was the first quarterback to ever throw over 400 yards in Lambeau. And I think the first one threw 5 touchdowns in Lambeau. At least for the Packers anyway. But and then what was it? 10 years later, 10, 12 years later, I get a call from SportsWriter. And I know Lynn, and he says, "Hey, did you hear about Lynn broke your record?" I said, "What do you mean he broke?" He says, "Well, he threw 417 yards, but it was an overtime game in 5 quarters." And I said, "Oh, yeah, okay, whatever." I said, "Well, just go, just make sure you put in the record book, you put a little asterisk like Roger Maris." you know, and he says, okay. And I said, just make sure there's an asterisk by it, overtime game and all that stuff, And by the way, mine was only in 3/4. I might have played one series of the fourth quarter. I don't recall. But anyway, so about 3 days later, this guy calls me up, the sports writer. He says, I told Lynn what you said about the asterisk. He says, tell Horn to go pound sand. I said, he says, tell Horn to go pound sand. He says, he had an 87-yard touchdown pass called back. It would have been 500 and something yards, he said, whatever. So,
I haven't heard that.
every time Lynn and I are together, we introduce together. We always, we always kid each other about that. So I remember years ago, we went to a big quarterback. We had a big quarterback. We brought all the quarterbacks back for a big signing. It was like 20 years ago in Milwaukee. Babe's there, Tobin Rote, and all these little, Taggy and, Scott Hunter and, everybody was still alive still there. But Bart didn't make it. But at the end of the day, we're signing autographs for everybody. At the end of the day, we trade pictures. I got one up here, and Dave Pirelli and everybody. And, we write each other notes and stuff like that. And we sign each other's pictures and trade, give each other's. So Lynn gives me his picture and he says, never will forget this. To Don, records are made to be broken. Lynn Dickey and I went, you son of a. He's a good guy. Yeah, Lynn, good man. So, yeah.
Don, there's an interesting quote I read the other day, and I want to get your take on it, being as a former player. Does a coach make the team, or does the team make the coach, in your opinion, for the coaches that, era?
That's a good question. Chicken or the egg, right?
Yeah.
I remember my college coach, Don Coryell, great coach, very innovative, wide open. A lot of people credit him for the West Coast offense in many ways. And they asked him pretty much the same question years ago. And he said, it's not the coaches, it's the players. It's the players. But I think it's a good combination and a good mixture of the electricity, the chemistry, whatever you want to call it. That's what Vince wouldn't necessarily keep the best athlete in certain instances. He insisted you got to have, a certain, background and a man of character and honesty and respect for certain things. And a couple of times I've seen him, he let maybe a better ball player go, but he was more of a me than a team type of a player. So just send him down the road. And some of these guys went on to have pretty good careers at other teams, but Vince didn't want him there because he figured in the long run, it wouldn't fit what he was trying to accomplish.
Is there one player that has surprised you that got cut?
Don't
want to throw names, I guess.
Yeah, I don't want to say any names. So, but a couple of those things happened before I got up there too, and some of those guys were ended up being all pro.
Yeah.
But anyway. So
yeah,
I know. He traded some good guys. He had pretty good guys to get good guys, but Bill Curry. I know they speak very. Bill's a friend and a great guy. I don't know. Like when Bill says when Bill's around, he says, how fortunate am I He says, I'm a sinner. He says, I snapped to the two greatest quarterbacks, I think, in the history of the game, Bart Starr and Johnny Unitas. He says, how great,
Yeah.
those are the two quarterbacks, his two quarterbacks. So I don't know.
Yes.
It can't get much better than that.
I don't know why they traded Bill, but it wasn't because of his character. I know that.
Yeah.
So we heard a lot of stories about the infamous Lombardi parties. What is one of your fondest Vince Lombardi party moments that you can recall?
Uh, Party member moments with him.
Yeah.
Well,
The basement.
Yeah.
I never was in his. I never was. I was past his house, but I was never in his house.
Really?
Never in his house. I remember one time though, back in those days when my rookie, the first couple of years there, my rookie year, there was four of us lived together: Jim Flanagan, Dick Cap, uh, Dave Dunaway was the Duke receiver, and myself. We had four of us living in a 4-bedroom house over in Alloway, I think it was.
Yep.
And there wasn't a whole lot of places to go for bachelors and stuff back then, and 2 or 3 hangouts in town. And, everybody's names in the phone book. That's back in the '60s. Everybody's names in the phone book. Everybody knew who you were, and this and that, and whatever. And from time to time, if you had a bad game or whatever, some of the local people in town would tattle on you. They'd call,
Jeez.
and we were kind of alerted to this. This would happen from time to time. And so I remember one day, I'm a cocky young kid, and I go out to practice one morning, and I hear this, Donald. Yes, sir. Comes over and he says, son, where were you last night? Supposedly we had 11 o'clock curfew every night. That was kind of the unwritten law, 11 o'clock. And he says, where were you last night? And I go, I'm going, and he says, before you answer, I not only know where you were, I know who you were with. I know what time you got home. Where were you last night? You just gotta just you can't lie to him. You just gotta But that's how it was. I mean, that's my party extent with Vince. But I wasn't invited to the party, so I don't know if any players were really that I'm aware of.
Okay.
At his house, I know he had some parties over there with. And then at St. Norbert's, we'd have to sing for our dinner every night.
Okay.
And, we have to get up on the chair and sing and stuff.
Okay.
And
So the rookie hazing kind of was still.
crazy thing is they don't do that now. And poor Travis, Travis Williams, the Roadrunner, he's a great guy. Travis could sing. He made a mistake of he could sing, and so Vince wanted to hear him almost every night. But they'd get up. I remember Fuzzy and stuff. They'd throw stuff at you, and boo. I was
Jeez.
that good.
Nice.
You're
Like Animal House.
Those are great times. We had to do the rookie show and stuff like that, whatever. But you hear
what was your song, Don?
what did I say? I think I sang "The Lonely Bull."
Which one is that? Can you recall that at all? I don't think I've ever heard of it. I really haven't. I mean, it'd be great to, even if you just say the line.
Jim Grass, yeah. Yeah, so I kind of bring a little Southern California stuff there, or whatever.
Nice.
I didn't know my fight song at San Diego State. So I just said, okay, I'll just do the Lonely Bull. That I do a Mexican song. So what the heck? I remember this one guy. I don't know why. I forget his name, first name, and I think he was from Penn State. And, you had to get up and say your name. I'm Don Horn, San Diego State, or whatever. So this one guy gets up. This is might have been the year after, second year. I wasn't a rookie then, but he was a rookie. So he gets up and he says, my name is like Dave Chikowski. And he says, and for those of you that can't spell, that's chicken on a cow, and a cow can't ski. Chikowski. You got it? He starts singing. So I would never forget that. And we all started laughing and whatever. But back in the old days, we had a good time. I mean, it was a fun group. Vince worked our asses, and then he like you said, I mean, you can put up almost anything if you win.
Hmm.
And Vince had a way of getting you. I mean, but Bart, Bart's the greatest. I mean, I still think the best call I ever saw him make, and I think he even said maybe a couple of times when with the Ice Bowl game when he called it give play to Chuck Mercine.
Hmm.
And I think Chuck went out of bounds on the 2 or 3 yard line, but he almost scored. But that was the greatest call in the world when he was, Lily was chasing, Lily was chasing, Lily was chasing. He was, guards would pull, Lily would chase, and that give play, the fullback's supposed to go and supposedly block where Lily would, the guard would pull, and then Lily would chase, and then the fullback would go hit the guard, or supposed to hit Lily where the guard was, and Lily was already gone. And so we put that play in, and Bart called that. I mean, it was just a blind play. You call a play, you don't get it. You kind of faked you faked the Racine and supposed to give it to a sweep, kind of a sweep for Donnie, and you run that, Lily chases, and all of a sudden, okay, we're going to give the give play. We're going to run that play. We're going to give it to Mercine, and no one, you run the play like you're supposed to. Lily pulled, Chuck went right through that hole. That hole was, all of a sudden you see Lily going, oh, I mean, you couldn't get back, he just, and Chuck went through that. But that call at that time was just one of the greatest calls I ever saw in my life. Back in those days, we called our own plays.
Wow.
We didn't have the stuff, what's going on, give me a play and stuff like that. We called our own plays. And the ironic thing about it, because when Zeke and I were on the sidelines, because we had meetings, we had quarterback meetings before meetings, during meetings, and after meetings. We had quarterback meetings and stuff with Coach Lombardi. But Zeke and I'd be on the sidelines, and probably 3 out of the 5 times we could call the same play that Bart was going to call.
Wow.
That's how we were. Of course, we had a game plan wasn't probably near as extensive as it is today. Of course, they called all the plays and stuff. We didn't have all the motion and stuff now and all that they have now. But we sat there. I'd say 3 out of 5 times we'd call the same play that Bart would call. And if Bart and I were on the sidelines, same deal. I mean, Zeke could be in a game probably 3 out of 5 times. Boom. That's how attuned we were. I mean, Vince would catch in the hallway or the latrine, and he might catch it in there, and he'd say Donald. I mean, we didn't call it. Back in those days, we didn't call it red zone and stuff like that. Whatever. We just said, Vince would come in and say, you'd say 3rd and 5, row 35, 4th quarter, 10 minutes to go in the game. We're ahead by 7. What are you calling? What are you going to call? You'd be standing there doing your business, and he'd walk in, and and you better have an answer. You better have you better have an answer. It had to be 1 of 3 or 4 plays. Boom, boom, boom. You just had, that's how. It's how you'd see him go, okay, because you don't know what is going to come out of his mouth. You'd ask questions like that, so you always had to be ready for it.
What did Vince like to hand down the most for punishments besides the insults? Like, was there, like you said, say he caught you off guard with a play and you couldn't think of one? What was your punishment for that?
He would just ream me out, just ream me out as he normally does, and then he'd threaten to trade you.
Okay.
He'd trade you, and back then, Pittsburgh was kind of the Siberia of the NFL in a lot of ways, and we call it the Siberia of the NFL and the NFC. And a lot of times he'd say, so you don't straighten up, you don't get a better performer, whatever. He says, I'll trade you to Pittsburgh next week, and I don't care if I get nothing for you. He started, whatever. You just threaten to trade you, that kind of thing. He would never, really. I mean, he'd demean you and verbally abuse you. But now you can't do that to these players.
No.
I get offended. I get verbally abused. It hurt my feelings. What the heck?
3 minutes, yeah, and then controversy.
Yeah, gosh. I tell you, these kids today, man. I mean, these guys make more. I was talking to Jack Kemp 30 years ago about money and stuff they're making, and he says, Don, he says, we talk about what you made and stuff and whatever. And I was a rookie and I made $15,000. As a first round, I got a little bit of a bonus, so I made 15 grand. And the Super Bowl paid 15.
Yep.
So I could double my annual salary. I wouldn't even. I mean, that's how disproportionate it is now. Whatever. But I remember Jack Kemp was saying that. He said 15,000. He says this is like 30 years ago. He says 15,000. They make $15,000 now just tying their shoelaces.
Yep.
And then he said, take my son Jeff. His son Jeff was a quarterback for a while in the league with the Rams, I think. And about that time, he was the third string quarterback for the Seahawks. This was in 90 or 91, something like that. And he says, take my son Jeff. He says, he's the third string quarterback for the Seahawks. Doesn't even suit up for the games. And he's making $380,000. Doesn't even suit up for the games. I mean, that's how different,
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, Brett Favre makes for a 20-minute Zoom appearance. He makes probably what you did in.
Yeah. I can, I do, I go, I do these signings and stuff around the country from time to time and that type of thing. And, and some of the horror stories that you hear about some of these guys, if you get it, you get it. But the amount of money these guys are asking for an autograph is just, man, I mean,
just a scribble.
I get stuff all the time in the mail and I just send it back and whatever. I guess I should ask for, do something for a charity or that kind of thing. But
Don, there was something I read about, and I wanted to bring it to light on air tonight. You are doing a fundraiser for a family member, correct?
We do. My son's into it a lot. He collects sports memorabilia, and so it kind of was his suggestion. He started a few months ago. My daughter, she's got 5 kids. She's in her early 40s, and she just had a double mastectomy a little month ago, and she's now going through radiation and stuff. So it was his idea to maybe start, offering jerseys and helmets and stuff like that and whatever, and for people, and then we give the proceeds to my daughter Erica, and it helps her with her bills and stuff, fighting cancer and that kind of thing. So he does a lot of that. We put it on Facebook a lot around the country, and a lot of the Packer backer organizations, the fans, and Green and Gold, and a lot of these different Facebook sites have been very supportive over the last few months. Really appreciate that.
Well, good.
So we can put it up on our website.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, great. I appreciate that, guys. Yeah.
Of course.
And you guys both back in Green Bay right now?
Jeff's a little bit further south, but yeah, probably all the Green Bay area. So
All right.
I'm in the Appleton area.
Appleton?
Yep.
And down there, College Avenue.
yeah.
They live right off of College Avenue. Yeah.
We used to go down there a lot. The old left guard down there years ago, before you were born. Down there.
Don,
I was down there. I think it was down there in the left guard, and this was in 1969. And we're in there having a few beers, and Fuzzy and Max. Max retired. I think Paul was in there, and Fuzzy had retired, and we're having a couple of beers, and Lombardi had asked Max and Paul to come down to their training camp in Washington, D.C. Washington with the Redskins.
Yeah.
And so he's down there for a few days. He went down there a few days. And so he's been back for a few days or a week or so. And then we're having a few beers. And I remember Max saying, he's sitting there talking to a bunch of guys. And he says, if the old man wins more than 2 games with that bunch of misfits down there in D.C., he's a better coach than he ever was up here, or something like that. And, that was the year that Vince went 7-5-2 with that team. Turned him around, and the next year he passed away, and then George Allen came in, kind of picked up the pieces, took all the credit for it. But Vince turned that around in 1 year. He said if he wins more than 2 games, he's a much better coach than we ever thought he was up here in Green Bay. First winning season they had in years. I mean, he turned out. But anyway.
How was that? How was that sudden passing of Vince? Was that pretty hard to take for everybody?
Yeah,
Or?
well, I mean, we knew I didn't know I didn't realize he was as bad as he was, but Kramer and Bart, those guys, they knew it was pretty bad. So yeah, and then we all went to the funeral there in New York City, and that was a big deal. But yeah, Vince, yeah, he was something, very demanding.
Do you have any of your old like stubs from Vince or anything like that? Like, what's in your memorabilia collection from your playing days still?
Well, I got a bunch of old stuff here. I was stupid. I didn't, you do stupid things. My original contract that I had with Green Bay,
Mm-hmm.
I had a picture of Vince, so I thought I would just cut his signature from the contract, and then laminate it on my picture. So that's what I did. And of course, I read the contract and everything else or whatever. So I mean, but I got the game ball. I mean, that one game that I was in the Army in '68, and I got out of the Army and been practicing for maybe 10 days up there in Green Bay, and Vince was GM that year, and but he was still on the field a lot, calling all the shots. And so I was a third string quarterback. I practiced a little bit, and I'm on the sidelines. We played the Colts. I think we played the Colts in Lambeau the next to the last game of the season in 1968. We almost beat them. That was that Baltimore football team that year was one heck of a football team. And I still think to this day, if they play 5 games, they'd win. The Colts would win 3 out of 5 against the Jets if they went back and played them again. That was a great football team. But we almost beat them. I think we lost 16-9 or 17, something like that. So practice, and then we get ready. We have to play the Bears down in Chicago, Wrigley Field, the following Sunday. So I practiced that week. Then I had a reserve meeting in Milwaukee Saturday night.
Oh well.
And so I told Vince. So the team flew down to Chicago, and then of course I had to drive to Milwaukee and do my weekend warrior stuff. And so I got out of about 11 o'clock. I drove to Chicago and got in about 2 o'clock in the morning, and knocked at the door. I was rooming with another great guy, Ron Kostelnik, great guy. Just we lost too many of those guys. Great individuals. I remember knocking the door 2:15, and he gets up. That Damien, Lombardi. He starts, So yeah, I woke him up from sleep, and he had to let me in. So I went to bed. Next morning, I get up, and I figured I'm not going to play it. So I ran into Coach Lombardi in the hallway going to breakfast, and he says, Donald, he says, what time did you get in last night? I said, about 2 o'clock, sir. He says, well, did you bring your uniform? I said, no. He says, well, I'm thinking about suiting you up. I figure he's joking. So I go to breakfast, and we go to a meeting, and then he makes the announcement that, they deactivate Bart. He's got broken ribs, and they activate me, put me on the team, an official. I'm going to suit up. And I'm like, okay, this is great. I was a third string quarterback. Big game. If the Bears win the game, they go to the playoffs instead of the Vikings. They go to the playoffs and have a chance to go all the way. And anyway, so okay, God, this is great. Cold day in Wrigley, gray day, drizzly rain, stuff. So, and at the end of the first quarter, Zeke gets hurt. They carry him off the field, and they turn to me. Horn, get in there. And I'm going, and then Billy Stevens was there, and the other quarterback. He'd been there all year. He got his nose bit out of shape. Thought he'd go in, and so they, that just totally caught me by surprise. I go in the game, and I still give Jerry Kramer static about it today. I go in that huddle the first series, and Kramer looks at me, and it happened to be that it was the last game Jerry ever played. And Jerry looks at me, and he goes, "What the heck are you?" He didn't. What the hell are you doing in here? And he turns to the sidelines. What the hell is he doing in here? So I'm really built my confidence. So the first series, I never will forget this. I mean, the first series, so I go up there and I we call our own plays, and I go up there and call a play, and all of a sudden Butkus is looking right at me, and he says something like, "Hey, Horn, what's your first name? Tin? Here I come, Tin Horn." And oh, yeah. So and so I go, okay, now I got I got an audible. So I audible. He knew right what I was doing. So I audible. Then I got start out first and 10. Then I went second and 13. Come up the next play. Hey, Horn, your first name's not 10. It's Green. Hey, Greenhorn here. Oh, okay. So I audible. Then I got third and 17. So after that, I go to hell with it. So we just started moving the ball, started calling plays, and things just started when I don't just things. About two or three series later, I threw a pass, completed. We got whatever. All of a sudden, I got knocked down. Got knocked down pretty hard, and all of a sudden, Jerry picks me up, helps me up, and he says, "Come on, guys, let's help this guy out. This guy's gonna have a game. Let's give. He starts yelling at the team. Come on, let's help him out a little bit more instead of just going, what the hell is he doing in here? This kid's doing it. And so, we ended up winning the game by 1 point, 28-27. And I was NFL Offensive Player of the Week. Happened to be the 100th game.
Oh, wow.
The Packers and the Bears.
Huh.
The oldest rivalry in professional football. I got the game ball sitting right up here.
Oh, nice.
Oh, cool.
Of course, Greg gave it to me. And my name's not even in the program.
Oh,
I got the program, the 100th game and all that stuff. My name's not even in it because I was in the Army all year. But I remember that game because Vince Lombardi came up, I think, 2 different times and congratulated me and gave me a hug one time.
Wow.
But not knowing that was going to be his last game there, it was a couple months later he made the announcement that he was going to go to the Redskins. So.
What do you translate that to? I mean, was there a sign that Vince was maybe looking to make a move, or was that like a sudden?
Yeah, there probably was, but me being young like that and whatever, I didn't pick up on it. But Jerry Kramer and some of the older guys, they kind of surmised it. Talking to them over the years and then reflecting back, they kind of surmised that something was coming, that he was going to either retire or
Make a change. Sure.
Step down. But
now, do you still have any of your old playbooks or game film or anything like that?
I got game film and stuff. Yeah, they've sent me film over the years and stuff.
That'd be interesting to watch back at this point. You know what I mean? Something without the announcers and
yeah.
whole game.
Yeah, Ray Scott, one of those guys, is great announcers. Yeah, I remember. I don't know why I'm talking about this stuff. Frank Gifford, when I was about 12 years old, living in Southern California. Frank's from Bakersfield, California, and my dad happened to work periodically with Frank Gifford's dad. And so I was about 12 years old, and Frank was a big star with the Giants and the SC guy, and all this stuff. And so, so I met Frank's dad a few times and got to know him a little bit, and then things happened later on. So I think my first pro start in 1969 or something, I don't know. It happened to be, I think it was a Sunday night game. Might have been a Sunday night game. They were experimenting with the Monday night, the night games. And, it was Cosell and Dandy was there, and then Howard. Howard and then Frank. And Frank was on the sidelines. He came down to the interview. I had a pretty good game. I got the game ball and stuff, and we beat the Giants. And so I'm standing on the sidelines after the game there at County Stadium in Milwaukee. And Frank's got his mic here, and he's going, test, test, test. and they're talking to these guys up in their booth, and I'm going, yeah, Frank. I said, yeah. I said, how you doing? The Bakersfield Flash, East High School. I said, yeah, and he said, how did you know that? And I said, well, I used to know your dad and stuff like that, and your dad worked with my dad, and we're talking. And he's going, yeah, we're talking. All of a sudden, he's live.
Oh,
He's going, oh, he goes, yeah. He says, I'm just talking here, Don Horn, reminiscing about some old times, or whatever. And and by the way, and Don had a great game tonight, and he just moved right into it. But I caught him off guard. Yeah, talking about. So anyway, I haven't thought of that in a while either. So anyway,
Don, what's your best road trip story that you ever had?
my best road trip story. I was rooming with Donnie Anderson, and we were on the road. I think it was might have been 69 or 70. I don't know. And Donnie had a reputation, and
I just leave.
we had curfew, and I was I was sitting in bed, and Donnie's he's in the John, he's on the commode, and the door's shut, and the coach knocks on. All right, I'll let the coach in. Hey, oh yeah, just check out you guys. Where's Anderson? He's in the bathroom. Knocks on the door. Anderson, open up. What are you talking about? He said, I'm doing my business, coach. He said, no. He says, open up. So coach opened up the door, the assistant coach opened up the door, looked at Donnie, he's doing his business, and he went over, pushed the curtain back in the bathtub, pushed it back to make sure he didn't have somebody back there in that bathtub. I went, come on, man. That's one of a few. So anyway.
that's awesome.
I don't know where to go from there. That's like one of those, all right, kind of moments.
That's what you call a rumor with a guy that's got a reputation or a legend. See? So.
What was your most wow moment? Like, when did you start to realize, you have something special there in Green Bay? Was it something that happened in the city? Was it maybe when you're serving the Army and everyone goes, oh, you play for the Packers? I mean, was it recognizable back then, or was it just?
Back then, it was like, everybody in Green Bay knew you. In fact, some people would say, you're a Packer, we're going to charge you retail plus 10, certain businesses, but most of them are pretty, pretty reasonable and whatever. But, even today, it's, a lot of people, they recognize you today and stuff like that. It's just nice to be, it's nice to be, kind of, thought of and recognized every now and then today or whatever. And I tell people I have to go back to Green Bay or Wisconsin at least once or twice a year because it's good for my ego. They still let me back there a little bit.
With anything, were you pretty well recognized through that too? I mean, while you were serving, did people kind of recognize you from the team, or was it not really?
Of course, I was stupid. I was driving a. When you're young, as kids, you had a car. Of course, I had an XK Jaguar.
Oh, jeez.
I had that thing. Great car, worst car in the world in the wintertime up there. Leave the thing outside. We had a 2-car garage, 4 of us living there. So we had 2 guys parked. If you got there early, you put your car in the garage. You didn't, you got to let it sit out. That thing sit out and it's 0 degrees or 10 degrees below. Sometimes you wouldn't start in the morning, and then you got to get to practice and, the car wouldn't start. Yeah. We heard that story before. So, but that car was a beautiful car, but the worst car in the world up north. I couldn't keep it on the highway.
I want to say, if you saw that car right now, you might be able to re-retire all over again.
God, are you kidding? Yeah, man.
There was all your promotional product and outdoor game activities. Check out Just the Three of Us. They're on Facebook today. There was I always talk about Lombardi being a perfectionist. What was the longest practice you guys ever had, just waiting on a play to finally go correct? Because that was always the big story.
A few times we had to run it 10, 12, 13 times. But more importantly, I remember one time, I was a rookie, and we're getting ready to, I think we were playing the 49ers that week. and they had just a mediocre record, and we're struggling, but we're doing okay. And we had back then we had Monday off. We had Tuesday kind of a light practice. Wednesday was offensive day. Thursday was defensive day. Friday was special teams. Saturday was a light practice, and then you travel or get ready for the game on Sunday. So we're about 10 minutes, 15 minutes into practice on offensive day on Wednesday, and we're making mental mistakes. Guards are pulling the wrong way, mental mistake, missed assignments. Even Bart made a mistake, but there were just too many mistakes. We're about 15 minutes into practice, and all of a sudden, Coach Lombardi says, "That's it. Get off my practice field. Get out of here right now. Get off this practice field and don't come back till you're ready to practice. Get out of here." He turned around, walked off, got in his car, and drove off.
Wow.
We're sitting there going, holy, and even the coaches are going, "They've never seen this, whatever." I mean, so, we better get off his field. So anyway, so we got off the field, we went and had lunch, and we had our stuff, and then we had meetings after. Usually we have meetings after practice for a bit. So we went and had lunch, and then I think Ben said he's going to start the meetings earlier. So he made it, So we went and had lunch, had a break, and about 2 hours later we had to come back for meetings today, and you could have heard a pin drop in those meetings. It got our attention, and we didn't really practice that much. We didn't practice that day. And then we came out Thursday, practiced defensive day, a little bit offensive day, and everybody's clicking on all cylinders and stuff. Everybody's just boom, 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 boom. Everything's working perfectly. But, he felt that we were getting overconfident. We weren't taking it serious enough, or he just wanted to get our attention. But he got it. And Vince had an uncanny knack. He had an ability that I've rarely seen in people. He could take you, he can motivate you as an individual on a weekly basis, and then know if you needed to be motivated or even knocked down a step or two. He had the same ability to do it as a team. He knew if the team was getting, or if they needed to be pushed up, or whatever. And he'd do this. He just had a canny knack of doing that. And for my rookie year, I was a third string quarterback, and every time we'd come in from pregame warm-ups before we put our pads on and go back out for the game, we'd sit in our locker room, and then Vince would come around, we'd say a little stuff, and then he'd come around to everybody. He'd go to the whole locker room, go around, you're sitting on your chair, and he'd sit there and say, he just knew if he needed to say something to you or whatever, and he'd turn around to the whole team. But for me, he'd start with, Zeke, he'd say something to Zeke, and then, he'd come to me, and my number was 13. I was the next one. He'd kind of look at me and go, kind of shake his head and go, like, we can count on you, Katie, bar the door, we're in trouble. And then he'd go to Bart, and, and some guys he'd speak to, and some guys he'd talk to more, or whatever. So this went on for the whole, every week, this went on and on and on. So, we get ready to go down to Baltimore. For a big game down there. That's the game that we lost both Grabowski and I think Elijah Pitts. Big game in Baltimore. And Bart's hurt. And he's probably not going to play. So now I'm the second string quarterback. Zeke's going to start. Of course, Zeke's a good, he's a great backup. Zeke bends over Saturday at practice before we get on the plane to fly to Baltimore. Zeke gets over, he bends over, picks up a football, can't stand up. Could not stand up. He pulled something and he could not stand up. And even getting him on the plane, he looked like Groucho Marx. And so it was, so all of a sudden I go from second to possible starter. So we get to the pregame warm-ups, and then they weren't sure if he could play or not. Bart wasn't going to play. So we go pregame warm-ups, and then they decide that, Zeke's well enough to start anyway. So he goes through the same thing again. He goes to Zeke. I don't know, he comes to me, looks at me, and he kind of puts his hand on my head, and he says, "Donald," I kind of paraphrased. He said, "Son, everybody in this room, especially me, knows that you can do the job if you need to, if we call on you today. You wouldn't be in this room if we didn't think you could do the job, and everybody in here is behind you 100%. we have faith in you. You know, kind of words like that. Then he went on, the whole team. I'm going, God, man, it's the first time he recognized me in front of everybody. Said something, good about me in front of everybody. Stuff like that. I was fired up. So we played. And we lost the game. It was, we lost the game, the last part of the game. But anyway, so next week, Bart's back. I'm third string quarterback again. Pre-game warm-ups. He comes to me again, kind of gives me that, well, maybe kind of like give me that hopeless look, whatever. But just stuff like that. He could, but he could motivate a whole team at one time as well as an individual. Either bring him up or bring him down, depending on where he felt that you should be. He just had the ability.
Was there one guy in particular that was kind of his pincushion? Like just always razzing him, on him.
Yeah, like Leroy Caffey and Marv Fleming, and there were certain ones he was always kind of razzing a little bit more. Of course, when Fuzzy was there, Fuzzy was great. Fuzzy and Max would come back at him, with those one-liners and stuff. Whatever. Yeah, Max was something.
Who is the hardest hit you ever took? Would it be like a Nitschke in practice type of hit, or would it be like a Butkus, or who was?
Honestly, Butkus was great.
Yeah.
Remember, he had bad knees, and we're playing him down there in '69 and Wrigley, and I isolated I put Travis Williams out on a little flare pass, and Dick had to kind of help covering with another linebacker. Dick really couldn't change directions. He had bad knees. So I threw a little pass to Travis, and Travis kind of juked him a little bit and went 27 yards for a touchdown. And I'm kind of trotting off the field, and Butkus is yelling at me, "Horn, you SOB, picking on a cripple, I'm going to kill you. Picking on a cripple, I'm going to kill you." To this day, I don't know why he never talks to me. But
it's kind of crazy from what you said before. He was calling you Pinhorn
yeah, well, this is a year later. I think.
Yeah, I know that's crazy.
But
how he knows the yarn.
Then we had something stupid. I'm just we for some crazy reason it was like on a Saturday or a Friday or something like that. It might have been, and we're kind of goofing around, and somebody kind of egged us. Hey, which one of you quarterbacks can throw the ball the furthest? Bart threw it about 55 yards. I get up, throw it about maybe 70, 72.
Jeez.
Zeke throws it about 85.
Holy crap.
Hell of an arm.
Oh,
80, 83, 85, something like that. Nitschke's there watching it. Nitschke says, "You bunch of, he picks up a ball and throws it about 90 yards. He's further than anybody. He called us wussies and stuff like that. Nitschke was a heck of an athlete.
Was it a duck or was it like a tight spiral?
It was pretty good, yeah. He was a fullback in high school and college. He was a pretty good athlete, hell of a basketball player too. He used to play those basketball. We had those basketball things my rookie year, where the team would play high schools and police departments and stuff like that for charity. Fuzzy was a pretty good basketball player, but Ditch would sit out there. He's like Metal Art Lemon. He'd sit out there half court hook shots and stuff and make him have time. He was a pretty good athlete, Raven was.
Was Nitschke as mean off the field as he was on the field?
When I was there, no, but the stories before I got up there, he was. Yeah, he went on a wagon. Yeah, he was off the field. He was pretty much pretty cordial.
Who was the meanest player on your defense when you played? Like, who was the guy that always got in your ear, always talked the most crap?
It's probably Raven.
Yeah.
Yeah, Raven. Yeah, I'll say Raven.
What about in the league itself? Like, who was the worst crap talker you guys ever played against? Do you think?
Oh gosh, Deacon Jones.
Okay.
Oh, Deacon Jones.
Butkus. A lot of those Bears, but Deacon would shut up. And then when Claude Humphrey came in the league in '70, I think he was a rookie. He wouldn't shut up either. Just more. And he just talk.
Was anything off limits, or did these guys just go?
Yeah, talk about your your pedigree and your sister and your mother and You know, anything to get you thinking, you know, whatever.
Get you out of the game.
Deacon would talk all, I mean, just
Anything.
yeah, so.
What was the most tense football situation you were ever a part of?
Oh, the most tense one.
Yourself to get out of there. You ever thought your life might be in danger, or what was it?
Oh gosh.
And I say that because, like you said, we're in a softer area than what you guys had, so I know it's a little more brutal back in the day when things were allowed.
You know, I don't know. You know, it's hard. You know, I mean, it's hard to say. You know, I mean, when I came out to Denver, I got hurt a couple of times, just in cheap shots and stuff like that. I mean, but remember when I was with Denver one time, Bobby Bell hit me on a clean. You know, he tore my knee up. It was a clean hit. And when I see him today, I said, you know, yeah, I remember, you know, I limp around, Bobby. The reason I'm limping is because of you, but it was a clean, honest hit. But things like, you know, but I just remember stupid stuff like that. So, but yeah, I'd say one of the most exciting times was standing on the sidelines when Bart came to the sidelines, an ice bowl game, and told Vince that, you know, of course, the whole week Vince told us, you know, it's 3rd or 4th and 1. You need a 1 yard. You don't call anything but a 31 wedge. That's the only thing we call. I mean, we all knew what he was going to call. It was a 31 wedge. And so he went, you know, I don't know if Vince he wanted to run it or kick a field goal, try to kick a field goal and tie it. and so that's when Vince said, well, let's, you know, go ahead and run it and let's get the hell out of here. And that's when he went in and he didn't tell Chuck Messina he was going to take it himself. He's supposed to hand off to Chuck.
Wow.
Chuck was supposed to carry the ball double team between Jerry and Ken Bowman. Jethro Pugh, because Jethro was a little bit taller. We could get underneath Jethro, but we couldn't get underneath. Lily was too Lily was too low. He was, you know, much too low. We couldn't get underneath and drive him back a yard. But Jethro, they thought they could, especially with the double team. So, but that's why when you see Chuck go in there on that play, Chuck goes in like that, and he raises his hands like he says, "I'm not singling a touchdown." Back then, you couldn't assist the guy, so he's going like this. I'm not, you know, he didn't want to push Bart. You know, it'd be a penalty. He goes up like this, and everybody thinks I'm signaling a touchdown. I'm not. I just want to make sure that the refs didn't think I was pushing Bart.
Wow.
So
How was that? How was that on the sidelines before that play? Was it just tense or everybody?
Well, you know, we hadn't done it. I think like Jerry says, for the, you know, first 20-some plays prior to that, we gained negative 9 yards or something.
Mm-hmm.
We had to put in a drive 20-some plays. We hadn't gained anything. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, we got 5 minutes to go in the game, and then we put together a 65-yard drive. Where they came from, just to this day, it's just the character of that. The character of the guys that were in that huddle.
Never quit.
I mean, it was cold too. You know, we had it warmed up. You know, we had the heaters blowing in. We had tarps over the bench. Again, we didn't have any equipment or anything to keep things warm back then like they do now. And the heaters were blowing in, tarps over there. And they take temperature from time to time on the bench. It was 0 degrees. We got it warmed up to 0 degrees. Guys were coming off the field. They were coming off the field, sitting on the bench, trying to get warm in 0 degree temperature. I mean,
It's no Green Bay can't lure in those free agents when we go with stories like that, Don.
Yeah.
Warmed up to 0.
At least they still play outside up there.
Right.
You know, I think, you know, I hate to say it, but, you know, somebody said it years ago. I think football began to kind of lose some of its soul when they started playing indoors.
Oh, yeah.
You know, what was it, that game about 10 years ago? Was it 10 years ago or so? That game in Philadelphia was postponed because of the weather?
Oh, I don't remember.
Yeah, there was a snowstorm.
Oh, yeah.
A snowstorm in Philly, and they called the game off.
I remember Buffalo.
Buffalo, you know, they go, you know, Lombardi and his guys roll over in the grave today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
a couple of years ago, I think there was just a snowstorm coming down. All you can do is run the ball then, I'm sure.
Yeah, Patriots had that too with the Snow Bowl there too. I remember being in the end zone, unfortunately, during the Packers loss to the Giants in the NFC Championship game. And Don, that was cold. The beer was freezing. You couldn't get anything you wanted to. The hot chocolate stopped.
Yeah, I remember watching that game. And,
Ugh.
that was like 5 degrees though, 3 degrees or 5. It was cold, but nothing like that.
They said it was pretty close to the ice bowl at one point by the end. Yeah, I mean your nose was it was horrible. So I can only imagine. You know, I'm up in a crowd around warm people with every layer on, so I can only imagine what you guys had to deal with.
Yeah, and I was hoping they'd pull that game off. And
me too, because I was in the end zone where they kicked the ball, and I was just like, no. I was working for Miller Lite at the time as a spokesmodel thing for it, and the guys I hang out watched the game up in the upper end zone, and yeah, that was the most painful thing ever because you were outside all day long working, and then you finally get a chance to see the game, and then that happens. So, yeah, rough.
Well, the upper end zone, to me, that's the best place to watch a football game. Is high in the end zone. That's right.
Oh yeah.
Plays develop now.
I always tell people this story. I mean, I grew up in LA, and I was always a Ram fan. I'd go to the Coliseum, always sit high in the west end zone where the tunnel is, and that 50 cents, maybe $1 to catch a Ram game. I did that for years. So I'm a senior at San Diego State, and I'm a Ram fan. I always liked the Packers too. I was a senior at San Diego State, and a young guy named Bobby Beathard used to coach me in high school a little bit. And Bobby went on to be GM for the Redskins and Chargers. So Bobby calls me up one day and he says, hey, his brother Pete Beathard was an All-American quarterback at SC. He's backing up Lenny Dawson, Super Bowl I with the Chiefs. He calls me up and he says, hey, Don, he says, I got 2 tickets to the Super Bowl next week. I'm a part-time scout now. He always wanted to get in the NFL. So he got his foot in the door with the Chiefs as a scout. And he says, I got 2 tickets to the game next week. He says, my brother Pete's, I said, yeah, I know. And he says, I got 2 tickets to the game. He says, you want them? I said, sure, you bet. He says, they're $12 a piece. And I went, what? Oh, get out of your, I can't afford $12 for a ticket. You're out of your mind.
Right.
That's what they are. So I bought 2 tickets, sitting in the stands, actually pulling for the Packers. I was at Super Bowl I, pulling for the Packers.
Wow.
And 2 months later, I get the call from Vince. I get a call from Vince. The draft was a little different back then. I'm sitting in a little bitty room and the phone rings. And, this is Don Horn, please hold for Coach Lombardi. Figure somebody's jerking my chain. Until you hear that voice. And anyway, so next year I'm on the field. I remember telling a story to Kramer years later, and Jerry said, you spent $12 for a ticket? I said, yeah. He said, you got screwed. I said, what do you mean? He said, mine cost 10. Jerry bought, he said he had about 10 or 12 extra tickets.
Really?
Super Bowl. In the Coliseum back, you had the tunnel and you buses parked and you walk down into the tunnel area and stuff in the parking lot. And then, they got all the cyclone fences, all the kids are around there. The kids are watching all the players get off the bus and stuff. So he had about 12 tickets, and he said he did, they're walking down the locker room for the game. He had all these tickets. So he just walked over to the fence and started handing tickets out to these kids. Yeah. But he said, you got taken, man. You got screwed. I got mine for $10.
Hey there, Don. You definitely hear about the stuff that you guys did back in your generation more, hit behind the scenes, what I mean? More of the stories that you don't hear about of like ticket giveaways, this and that. I mean, sure, you'll get your Aaron Rodgers and stuff, they'll do it. But I mean, yeah, there's some pretty cool stories when you start to listen to your guys talk. And I always love the Lombardi era guys. Anytime I can hear you or Jerry or, like you said, when Bart was around, or even hearing Sherry still tell the stories on Bart's behalf.
Yeah.
Incredible stuff to hear.
Yeah, I remember, Bart just, we, I know, I lived in Steamboat Springs for a while when I first retired. And, I remember, Bart and Sherry came out with Brett, one of his friends back in the 70s. And spent 4 or 5 days up in Steamboat Springs skiing with, Billy Kidd and a lot of these Olympic skiers and stuff like that. And Bart was a little intimidated.
we're skiing one day and Bart fell a couple of times, and Billy Kid's trying to help him up and stuff like that. And then Bart, and he says, these guys probably think I can't, but they didn't have to face Butkus and stuff like I did. Whatever. So I go, yeah, I know, but those are good times. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Bart was a great guy. I tell you, great guy. Yeah.
One more quick story out of you, Don, because I know we promised you we'd keep it to 45 minutes. We're already double that, so I don't want to take advantage of you. But if you got one more good story, and we'd love to hear one more.
I don't think of them off the top of my head. Just like my son wants me to record all this stuff. I said I can't record it because I can't think about it. But you start talking about things, one thing leads into another. So off the top of my head, I mean, I can't really.
Jeff,
one more story. We're playing again. My rookie year, that happened. We're playing the Browns in County Stadium, and on a Sunday, and that was the game that we were ahead. I think 35-7 or 35-0 at halftime. Travis Williams ran 2 kickoffs back and set records and stuff. And Blanton Collier was a great gentleman, head coach of the Cleveland Browns then. Great gentleman. So we're ahead. I think the final score was 55-7, I think. 55-14, one of the two. By halfway through the fourth quarter, all the rookies are in there. I'm in there with Max and Fuzzy and I want to show Vince that I can move the team. So, I don't know, about our own 30-yard line or something like that. So 5 or 6 minutes to go in the game, I methodically moved it. We go down there and first and goal on the 7-yard line. There's like a minute and 30 seconds to go. I got first and goal on the 7. God, this is great, man. I'm going to score. I'm going to show up, I can move the team. All of a sudden, somebody turns to me and says, here comes Forrest. We call him Trees. Here comes Forrest. He's got his helmet. He comes lumping back in the game. And he pulls me aside and says, old man told me that he says, told me to tell you, don't score. Don't score. And so, okay. So I gave the ball to, I said, Travis, just go water bucket to water bucket, so we ran the clock out. I'm coming off the field kind of towards the bench. Vince is one of the first people to me. Lombardi comes up to me and he says, Donald, kind of grabs me. He points over to Blanton. He says, see that gentleman over there? He's a true gentleman of the game. 55 is bad enough. 62, I'm not going to have it. Understand? Yes, sir. But if you say that today, you're shaving points. You're shaving all that stuff or whatever. He said it was an insult. 55 is bad enough. He said 62, I'm not going to have it. I said, yes, sir. I totally understand. Good. That was it. That's all he said.
Wow.
But at least I proved to him I could move the team a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's about it, guys, for today. So
yeah.
Don,
I appreciate every minute. This was awesome to hear.
Okay, who do we have this week? Atlanta?
Yeah,
Atlanta, yep.
Can you believe the stuff that they're blowing all the time?
Oh, my Lord. That onside kick, Mike and I were texting back and forth. Well, what the hell were they doing?
Yeah. One more story. In fact, that's why the guy put this on yesterday, because 50 years ago that I came off, I couldn't hit a bull in the ass with a handful of peas that game. But, Bart, I came in the game late in the fourth quarter against Atlanta at the Lambeau 50 years ago yesterday. And I grew up a Ram fan. Norm Van Brocklin was always my hero. He was my hero when I was growing up. He was the quarterback. I always wanted to be. He was my man quarterback. So he's head coach of the Falcons. Anyway, long story short, towards the end of the game, we're backed up on our own 11-yard line, 3rd down and 10, and I threw a 89-yard touchdown pass. Wow. I threw it probably high as I did distance-wise. It was like 66 yards in the air. Wow. I probably threw it 50 at least. It was So, and Carroll Dale caught it, and we won the game. And I ain't happy, I ever had like this. So after the game's over, and Van Brock, you hear stories about what a mean temper he had. He was cussing his players out and stuff. And actually, he made the buses leave. Guys are running out of the locker room after the game over. Tommy Novus and these guys, they still had tape. They had their pants on, didn't have a shirt on. Some of them still had tape on their they take a shower. Didn't have their shoes on. They had tape on their, whatever, trying to get on the bus because he wanted to get the hell out of Dodge. He wanted, he'd fly. He was so pissed off that he lost. So I go up to him after the game. He's cussing this guys out. I'm standing over there. And I just wanted to meet him, shake his hand. And he's mad at me, right? And he sees me. And he looked at me and he says, "What Horn, you lucky, you lucky man." And he started cussing me out. He said, "You're the luckiest guy. You and that damn," they called it a silo. He says, "You and that," he called it a silo, as high as it was. "You lucky you threw in that silo," and then he started cussing me out. And I'm going, "Wait a minute." I said, "Coach," I said, "you shouldn't talk to me that way. I wish you wouldn't talk to me that way." "Why in the hell not? You lucky," and I said, "Because you're my hero."
Oh.
Then he got more pissed off. He thought I was jerking his chain. Then he really lost. So I never really Anyway, so that was it. I remember after the game, guys are running out, and I'm talking to some of those guys later. They said, "You remember that game?" He said, "Yeah, man." He was, guys are running out. They had their pants on, some of them not even zipped up. And the shirt, this and that, and they're, one guy had one, a shoe, one sock in his shoe, and the next one was barefoot. He was trying to get the bus was leaving. The bus is leaving. Let's get out of here.
Oh. Never today's NFL PA world, right?
Yeah. Different game today. All right, guys, enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Have you back next time you're in Green Bay. Come,
Yeah,
we'll take you out to dinner and.
sounds good. Yeah, and then if you promote that deal with my daughter, I'd appreciate it. And stuff.
Oh, definitely.
I'll get offline with you a little bit tomorrow, and I'll get a link and I'll post it up. And yeah, we'll definitely take care of you and post any links you want.
Sounds good. Yeah, I might have to put you in touch with my son Ryan on that or whatever he has.
Yeah, definitely. And then we'll promote your real estate gig. You're still doing that too, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of doing that part time or whatever now. Yeah, I'm kind of slowing down a little bit. My wife's not in the best of health, so I'm pretty much
over to Green Bay. All right, well, Don. We want to thanks for joining us this week, and we can't wait to see you again.
Sounds good. Be well. Stay safe out there. Go
You
back.
too.
Sounds good.
Bye bye.
Thank you.